but I was spreading the message. And in the summer, more and more people were asking me the same thing. You know, run for governor. We have to get rid of Jay Inslee. Please run. And in July, I looked around and there wasn't anybody that I could trust to stand up for citizens' rights like I did back in 2018. And so I talked to Barb, and I said, you know, we've got 2 grown sons and 7 grandkids that live here. If I don't jump in with both feet and help to turn this state around, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life, because there's a lot of people asking me, and I don't like to live with regret. So in July, I announced I was running for governor. And I had a press conference and an announcement speech in the park in Republic. There was about 120 people that showed up. And I talked about some of the issues. And the biggest one, still is the biggest one in this state, even though it's not all over the news anymore, was the so-called homeless crisis, right? It used to be just mainly in King County, but now it's everywhere. People living on the street, you know, tent cities everywhere. Crime is out of control. But I didn't call it a homeless crisis like the news media and most of the politicians do. I was a narcotics detective for 3 years. I dealt with people that are on the street, that are having problems. And I called it an addiction and a mental health crisis, because that's what it is. And until our state focuses on that real problem, the core issue, then it won't be fixed. You know, the governor and my Republican competitors at first agreed that we need millions and millions of dollars to build homes for all these people that are living on the street. That's wrong thinking. We already pay millions and millions of dollars to this problem, but they're not fixing it. If you built a home for everyone that's living on the street, and there's no one living on the street anymore, everybody's got a house, a bunch of things are going to happen. People will start dying from overdose in those houses. They will turn into the next slums. And people from all over the United States are going to come here with their hand up and saying, I don't have a house either, build me one. It will be a perpetual building program that will cost us billions. That's not the answer. The homelessness is a symptom of the core problem. You can go down to King County and you can have 6 or 7 grams of heroin on you, and the police will not arrest you because the prosecutors won't prosecute. Because the left says that it's not compassionate to put an addict in jail. But I have found exactly the opposite to be true. When I was part of the narcotics task force, we had zero tolerance policy for heroin and meth. If you had residue of heroin in a baggie, that's a felony in this state, and we enforced it. We would arrest people, they would go to jail, they'd see the judge, and the judge would give them a choice. They could go to treatment or they could go to prison or jail, depending on the severity of their crime. That's what it takes. And a funny thing started happening. People would come back after getting their head clear and their lives back together, and they'd come up and give me a hug and say thank you for saving my life, because they couldn't quit heroin on their own. It took tough love. And that's what we have to do. We can't leave them stuck in a cycle of addiction on the street like the left wants to do. To me, that's cruelty. There's one young man in particular. You know, most people don't want to go public with things like that, but one young man was very brave when he agreed to talk about this on camera. Last fall, I was in Republic, and a reporter named Brandy Cruz. Have you guys heard of Brandy Cruz? She's on Q13. She does a show called The Divide, and she was over there interviewing me about my stance on this so-called homeless crisis and my run for governor. And while we were on the street of Republic talking, John Donner went by. And John Donner, to me, is a hero. But he was a former narcotics dealer. He was dealing narcotics to support his own habit. And he went by while I was talking to Brandy on camera. And I said, would you like to talk to a former drug dealer? And she said, absolutely. And so I got a hold of John. He came over and talked to Brandy. And he told her exactly what I just said. You know, he could not quit narcotics on his own. He needed that tough love. He said he hated my guts at first because I was ruining his life. But after he got his head cleared and got off the narcotics, he got his 2 little kids back that he lost when he got arrested, because the state doesn't let children live with drug